I know CyberArk for a very, very long time, and we are fortunate to have projects with CyberArk in 5 countries, so we have a good experience with them. Now I'd like to invite Nikos to talk a little bit, to put another piece of on the board.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much to DataCore for inviting us to present. So I'm the second Greek in a row presenting. What are the odds? I'm traveling the last 20 years, and this has never happened to me in a foreign country. So this must be your lucky day. Maybe. Or unlucky day. Yeah. Yes, we were actually on the same plane. We didn't know each other, by the way. We just met. So, a few things about me. I'm Nikos Mourginos. I am the leader for Cisco EMEA Central Theater. The EMEA Central Theater consists of many countries. The top countries are Switzerland, Austria, Poland, Czech, and Slovakia. The CIS countries, the Balkans, Hungary, and of course, Romania. Okay. So I've been working for Cisco for around 12 to 13 years. Before that, I used to work for HP for another 10 years, and then before for 5 years at IBM. And I tend to be sometimes a bit technical. This is not a technical session. You'll find out if I'm lying. And that's why I'm also a Cisco certified network expert the last 20 years. And the title of the presentation is about SASE, Secure Access Services. And I guess it was mentioned at least 20 to 30 times today. Okay, so I guess that most of you should know about the concept, but I guess that the agenda that I have, I will discuss about SASE. Okay, what is SASE? Just to give you an overall summary of what it is, okay, and how it can help you modernize your company and protect your organization. We'll talk about SSE. Do you know what is SSE? Can you raise your hand? No? Okay. So there is at least one acronym that you don't know, and I will have to explain because I was frustrated. It was a lot of acronyms, and there was nothing left for me to explain. Okay, so at least I have one to talk about, and then we'll see what is SASE and what are the use cases. Okay, and finally, why we are talking about SASE now, and how a customer can embark on such a journey. Because we're talking about a journey, it's a technology, a framework that consists a lot of products. Actually, all the products that were discussed prior, it's actually, most of them are part of this SASE framework. Okay. So, right now, if we see the technology that we had the last decades, every company had a centralized network and security approach. So the branches, the headquarters, the mobile users were connecting to the data center, and from the data center they were accessing the internet. And actually the internal traffic was around 80%, and the traffic going to the internet was around 20%. Okay. And everything was very clear. There was this perimeter with a security stack and a lot of security products. Every organization has around 50 products, security products, okay, in order to protect the organization. There is this clear perimeter. But as the evolution of digital transformation proceeded, we've seen that this actually approach has a lot of problems. And why there are these problems? It's because of the remote working, and it's because of the cloud. And I'm not talking about the Azure workloads or the Google workloads that a few organizations, not a lot in our region, put there for DevOps or even for production, but mainly is the software as a service. Because everybody is using software as a service. Everybody is using Microsoft Office 365. Everybody is using WebEx. or Zoom, or Microsoft Teams, or Salesforce, or Box, or Dropbox. Okay, so we realized that only 20% of the traffic is internal, and 80% of the traffic will need to go to the cloud and will need to go to the SaaS. And the problem is that all of these applications demand higher bandwidth. They demand an application performance with the minimum latency. The users are used to having the best performance, so we need to provide them a fantastic user experience. The costs are significant because the MPLS links and all that set up with a complex network and security architecture costs a lot of money, and every single organization needs to become a networking and a security service provider. And what about the tools and vendors? How many tools can you manage? How many experts you can have? And on top, there are certain cybersecurity concerns that we need to address. And I have listed some here. What about the HTTPS decryption? All the traffic on the internet, the 80%, 90% of this 80% is encrypted. And in order to analyze if this is good or bad, you need to decrypt that. And this is very, very painful, and most of you will know that will degrade the performance of the firewalls and everything that we have in on the data center. And what about the protection of the remote users? How you are going to protect this remote user here? The only thing that he has on the laptop is an endpoint security agent and the VPN, nothing else. Can you protect the user with only these two agents? Actually, there are more agents there, multi-factor authentication and everything, but only these two agents can do the security part. And what about the security updates? How many days, weeks, months do you need in order to update all these products, all these brands, UTM, next generation firewalls, the data center, and the remote user software, every time we have new vulnerabilities? And of course, complexity, alarm fatigue, it was mentioned before, and the shortage of the experts. So, what we're proposing with secure access services is to move from a centralized to a decentralized approach. Why? Because with a centralized approach, we have poor application performance, as we explained, we have poor user experience, it's expensive, it's complex, there is no scalability at all, and we realized that during the pandemic, and of course it's insecure. And we need to go to a decentralized approach where the user will be able to move to the application on the best route in the most secure way, having the best user experience. It's going to be simpler, agile, flexible. The user performance is going to be great, and I will try to explain why you are going to have also state-of-the-art cybersecurity services. And by the way, we are also offering a reduced total cost of ownership. This solution, it's simpler, and also it's more affordable. So, what is SASE? And actually, SASE is not a Cisco term. Okay, everything that we are talking about here is terms that have been are industry standard terms, and actually the term SASE was coined by Gartner. Okay, so SASE combines actually two technologies: security and networking. These two technologies need to be together in order to interwork, in order to provide this benefit. So we have the remote user, we have the headquarters, the branches. The branches and the headquarters need to go through this routing networking capability, the networking part of the solution, which is the SD-WAN fabric, which will be able to provide us the best path, the optimized path, that will route the traffic from the user sitting on the branch to internet, to Azure, to Google Cloud, or to Microsoft 365. And we are going to have this best performance. And for the roaming user, it's going to be the same. And at the same time, we are including security. Security that moves away from the branches and the headquarters, some part of it, we'll see which part, and they are moving directly on the cloud. So, Gartner introduced in 2021 another term, which is SASE without the A. And for some strange reason, although SASE is Secure Service Access Edge, if you remove the A, you put an S on the services, so it's Security Services Edge. And actually, in similar terms, it's just the security part. So SSE, it's only the security part of SASE. Okay. So if we are talking about SSE, it's only the security part. If we talk about SASE, is SD1, or the networking part, plus the security part. But why Gartner did that? Because, for example, some vendors, they don't offer networking part. They offer just the security part. Is it possible to get the benefits of SASE if you get networking from another vendor and security from another vendor? We'll see at the end of the presentation if it's doable. And of course, Gartner actually contradicts what they are saying, because at the same time they have this paper that says single vendor is the way to go. And most of the customers will select a single vendor. So, what are the components of SASE? SASE is a journey, it's a framework, it includes a lot of technologies, but in order to simplify things, okay, I selected the top, let's say, technologies that, the mandatory, let's say, technologies that should be included. And on the networking part, you can see the SD1 part, the software-defined wide area network. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. And of course, you need some monitoring tools, the observability tools, in order to make sure that you have this best performance that we're promising with SD1. And then on the security part, you have the security Ethernet access. We'll see what components there are. This is mainly the part where a user connects to the internet, and then you have the security part in order to protect the user. You have the zero trust, it was mentioned many times today, and the zero trust network access, which usually is the VPN part. And of course, you need an integrated SOC platform, which we usually refer it as, this technology we refer it as extended detection response, in order to provide a tool to the SOC analyst in order to analyze and prioritize events. Let's see each one of these components on a high level. Okay, security and access is one of the top solutions that actually it's not new. Most of our customers are using it already. Not only, there are a lot of vendors offering it, and there are a lot of organizations that are using this security Ethernet attacks from many vendors, okay? The market is very fragmented. So, secure Ethernet access is offering the possibility for a user, when he connects to the internet, to have access to these 8 capabilities that are being combined in one single solution. But with SASE, we are doing that with a cloud-native approach. All these capabilities are offered not from different products, but from one product using microservices and through the cloud. And of course, we will see here that we have a few new capabilities, like CASB, or remote browser isolation. And thank God, none of these two were mentioned today. So, for example, let's see one of these 8 capabilities briefly. Okay, DNS security. Everybody knows about what is DNS security. DNS. When I open my laptop, I enter a URL, then the first thing that needs to happen is the DNS request. It needs to go to the DNS server, most probably to the service provider, and I need to get the answer in order to connect later on. Okay. With this cloud-native approach, we are offering a public cloud DNS server, so we're gonna replace the internet service provider with the DNS server of this service in order to get a quicker resolution. But this is not actually the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be able to analyze a lot of billion DNS requests, and actually we are talking about hundreds of billion DNS requests received every day. So with our analysts, we can do statistical analytics and machine learning to analyze which of these DNS, which of these domains are good, what are bad, and also actually predict also the future. So this is going to be the first cybersecurity check which has absolutely no latency, because anyway you are going to do this request, you are going to send it to the DNS server, okay, and you will expect the reply. If the reply is good, you're going to allow it, you're going to reply. If it's bad, you're not going to reply and you're going to block the communication. So the next one is cloud delivered firewall and IPS from the cloud. Okay. Usually Gartner says that there are three use cases for a firewall. The first use case is the use case that everybody knows, is the use case where you need a firewall at the headquarters to protect the application that you have there. We are not talking about this kind of firewall, okay? Every organization are gonna need a firewall, physical or virtual, that is gonna be installed on-prem, that is gonna protect the on-prem applications. But there are other two use cases. One is the use case where you need a firewall and an IPS on a branch, and the other use case is, what about the remote user? The best location to put a firewall there is on the cloud. It's on SASE, offered by Security Internet Access. And in here, of course, we're going to put rules and policies for source IPs, destination IPs, ports, whatever we want. And of course, we're going to have thousands, tens of thousands of intrusion prevention rules that will have minimum latency when we analyze the traffic in order to understand if this traffic is good or bad. I guess you know that if we enable IPS on a firewall, especially on branch, this has a significant impact on the performance of the UTM of the branch. Here, we're talking that there is no absolutely latency. The next one is secure web gateway. Okay, we are used about URL filtering and secure web gateway. Every organization is using these capabilities the last years. The capability that we have here that was introduced the last 5-10 years is application visibility and control. So instead of knowing only Facebook, you know if it's Facebook games, if it's messaging, if Dropbox, if it's upload, download, all these capabilities. But the key thing here is that secure web gateway being able to be delivered from the firewall, we are offering here unlimited resources to do decryption. So the decryption here, powered by a cloud-native solution with microservices, it's not going to have any additional latency. And we're going to be able to decrypt almost everything. What about cloud access security broker? This is a new term. This is another Gartner terminology. And why do we need that? Well, if you have access to software as a service, like Microsoft Office 365, if you have Salesforce or Box or Dropbox, then you need it. Why do you need it? Well, if I am at a branch and I connect to Microsoft Exchange, then the company really knows that I am Nikos with the identity solution that I have, and I'm connecting right now to Microsoft Office 365. Why? Because the traffic will go through the on-prem data center and they will analyze the traffic. But if I'm at home with direct internet access, and we said before that we are talking about moving from a centralized to a decentralized. So it means that when I'm at home with a direct internet access, or from a branch with a direct access, this traffic will go directly to Office 365. So how the company is going to know that I'm connecting to Office 365? It's not possible. Which solution is going to provide us visibility to the users is the CASB. Which solution is going to provide visibility to the data that we're exchanging? If we're adding credit card numbers to Salesforce, if we're sending confidential information, it's going to be the CASB solution. Okay. And of course, this application talks with other cloud applications, thousands of other applications. CASB is going to provide us this capability. Malware protection, I guess you know, everything here, detect and protect, unknown files going to sandbox, and of course we're talking here about files that are being downloaded from the internet, so they are inline, as we say, so, or malware in motion, and of course there are malicious files that exist on Box or Dropbox, they are there, they don't move, and we need to analyze. So this is part also from the malware at-rest discussions. Data loss prevention, it's another terminology that we are using many years. It's part of this SASE implementation. You need data loss prevention, okay? You are at home, you upload documents. Even if you are a financial institution, everybody has remote workers. How do you know if they upload with a company laptop documents to Box or Dropbox? This solution is going to help you do that, and of course there are technologies that are using out-of-band data loss prevention to protect SaaS applications, and of course inline when we upload a file through an email, for example. Remote browser isolation. Finally, we come to a term that it was not mentioned today. Do you know what is a remote browser isolation? If you would like to, yeah, okay. So, okay, it's a new term, let's say a relatively new term, okay? And I will try to explain that briefly. So imagine I go to a website, okay? The website will send hundreds of lines of code to my browser. Some of these could be active content. And of course, without me clicking anywhere, files can be downloaded on my browser. We are talking about fileless attacks. Okay. The technology here, what it's doing is that if RBI or remote browser isolation is enabled, as soon as I try to access this web page, the web page will be downloaded, this 100 of codes, active code, will be downloaded on a safe environment, on a surrogate browser on the cloud, and then it will pass on only the safe content on my browser. And as Gartner says, this is going to protect us, reducing the risk by 70%. So that's why it's very critical. So this is one of the reasons of the additional capabilities that the cloud-native security is going to provide us to protect the remote users, for example. And of course, it's not only for the remote users, it's for every user. But imagine on the remote user who is outside of the customer perimeter, this technology is going to protect us more. Threat intelligence, yes, of course, you need to have hundreds of full-time security analysts that are going to analyze a lot of events, to analyze what is going on the internet, what is happening, and of course you need to equip them with artificial intelligence algorithms to detect abnormal behaviors and provide updates to all these engines, all these 8 engines that we mentioned before. So, that was all about secure internet access. The next topic is zero trust network access. And here we are talking about moving the VPN capability that we used to have, or the next generation VPN capability, to have access to private applications, either on-prem or on workloads on infrastructure as a service like Azure. And this capability, we're moving it to the cloud. Okay. So the user will go through these capabilities and terminate the tunnels to the secure web remote access on the cloud, and from there to the private application. And there, of course, we need to support unmanaged devices. So we need to have browser-based VPN capabilities, or clientless, without any client. So all these capabilities are being offered by these servers. Zero trust, again, another term that was mentioned a lot. In here, of course, as we are getting outside of this perimeter, we need to adopt a never trust, always verify approach. Before, when we had a firewall and we were inside the perimeter 10 years ago, we were assuming that all the resources inside the network and the users inside our perimeter, they were secure. We could provide them access. If it was a reader inside the network, it could access everything, networking-wise. Okay. Right now, with the zero trust, we have zero trust for every user, for every device. And what do we need to do? To have multi-factor authentication, to authenticate the user. Passwords are not really important anymore. I guess you've heard about technologies that are passwordless. So this is another part of this technology of zero trust. Then, of course, we have device posture health, because besides the identity of the user, we need to confirm that the device is not compromised, it does not have vulnerabilities. Okay, so this is also important. It was mentioned before. And then, as soon as we know the identity of the user and the trust of the device, we need to provide the least privileged access. This is key. We are not going to provide access to the whole network or to all applications. We need to provide only limited access for that particular user to do his job. And we're going to do that continuously. Okay, this is super important. We need to continuously monitor, because every single of these parameters can be eroded over time. And of course, behavioral analytics is also important, because if something happens, if something changes in the behavior of the user, for example, we need to revoke the trust of this user and discontinue and terminate the session. So, software-defined wide area network. Okay, wide area network is the last many years, 30 years, when I started working one routers. This is the first thing that we are doing. We're setting one connectivity. What's the difference here? What has changed? For example, a lot of our customers, they are saying, oh, I need SD-WAN. But what do you need SD-WAN? If you needed to connect branches to the internet or branches to the headquarters, this is not SD-WAN. The true capabilities of SD-WAN is if you have a multi-cloud strategy or a cloud strategy. So you have workloads in Azure, you have workloads in Google Cloud, and you have workloads on AWS. And you are promising with SD-WAN that every user will go through the best path and will have the best user experience, the optimized path with the least hope through the SD-WAN fabric. And the other way is this one, for SaaS application. And everybody has SaaS applications. And as we move from the centralized approach to the decentralized approach, we need to provide direct internet access to SaaS. And it's not only important to provide access from the user to Microsoft Office 365 network. We need to be aware what is the routing, the optimal routing inside the Microsoft network. And how we are gonna know that. Because, for example, if I am accessing Microsoft Teams, how the SD-WAN fabric will know what is the best path inside the Microsoft network? They will know because Microsoft, with the Microsoft Informed Network routing, is going to tell us. So there is the way to have a feed from Microsoft to the SD-WAN fabric in order to have into account also this parameter. So SD-WAN has to do with these capabilities, multi-cloud and SaaS. And of course, you need to have tools. Okay, you need to have tools to optimize and to make sure that you have the best application performance and you have all these tools that you are going to monitor that you provide the best service to the customer. And finally, we have a lot of, we've talked about a lot of different solutions. And all of the solutions provide different alerts, different events, and of course, we need to make the job of the SOC analyst much simpler. And how we're going to do that with a solution like XDR, Extended Detection and Response, where we're going to integrate everything. And not only solution from one single vendor, this solution needs to be multi-vendor. It needs to support all other vendors, because we don't want a customer, we should not assume that a customer will purchase products from only one vendor. Most of our customers, they have multi-vendor strategy. So you need to integrate everything, you need to correlate, you need to have threat intelligence in order to do the incident prioritization, the automation, and of course, we need to have tools like artificial intelligence here. And this is the only way to strengthen security with the limited resources that each one of our customers has, because there is this skill shortage. And all of these services, the key in order for this to work, it needs that on the cloud delivered SaaS approach that we mentioned before, we need to have lightning fast performance. This cloud native solution with all these combined capabilities and features and security capabilities that we offer needs to be state-of-the-art capabilities delivered out of private data centers, that they have a backbone, that they are, each data center needs to communicate with private peerings. And of course, each data center will communicate with public peerings with every other vendor, with service providers, with Microsoft, with Azure, with Google, with Box, with Dropbox, with Facebook, in order to provide the best service. This is mandatory. For example, if a company wants to do SASE and they have virtual machines on Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services, this is not SASE. You cannot leverage the Google Cloud network, which is an unpredicted internet network, in order to provide SASE. The performance will suffer. Of course, you may have a POP at Amazon Web Services that will provide service to Romania, for example, and from there or to any other or any other country where you cannot have a data center, because we're talking about a lot of countries that we have, that this Amazon Web Service adds POP will interconnect to your backbone. Okay, and this is the only way that we're going to have the best performance. What are the use cases? Very briefly, we discussed most of these things. For example, the number one use case is remote users. Okay, and even, for example, a financial institution or a company does not want to rely on the cloud. All of our customers have remote users, and the only way to provide the best state-of-the-art cybersecurity to their remote users is adapting this journey. So we have the remote user will need to connect to the internet, need to connect to SaaS applications and to private applications. So a client will be required, a unified client, a client that will include not only the VPN service offered by the ZTNA, but also the secure endpoint, the multi-factor authentication. Maybe we need to get feedback from the agent, what is happening on the agent. We are talking about the unified agent there that will communicate with a tunnel to the SASE, to the SSE component, to the security staff, and it's going to leverage all these services in order to connect to the internet. As soon as the user needs to connect to Office 365, for example, then of course we need to authenticate him. So Zero Trust is going to play there, and with Zero Trust we are going to invoke passwordless or multi-factor authentication, device posture, and provide the least privileged access. for him. And of course, we're going to monitor this every time. And then we will connect, of course, this will secure his communication to SaaS applications. And when we're talking about private apps, here, all of our customers need two different ways to access private apps. Either browserless, without a client, to provide access to partners or to contractors, so we don't require any agent in order to do that. And of course, through a VPN. Imagine that there is an encryption capabilities there. You need to have high encryption requirement, and you are going to do that. And of course, this connectivity may go through the SSE environment, but if a customer, for example, says that, look, I have a research and development team that is developing this product, and I don't want this VPN tunnel to go through the SSE. I need to do what is called SSE bypass. So this traffic can be configured not to go through SSE, but to go outside of the SSE and be terminated on the private VPN concentrator of the customer, or VPN gateway, let's say. And the use case too is for customers that they have both remote users and branches. And the diagram there is similar. The added component is the SD-WAN capability that we mentioned. And of course, here is the two things that we need to take care about. The SD-WAN is how to optimize the traffic to go to the cloud, and how to go to SaaS applications like, for example, Microsoft Office 365. So, why we are talking about SASE now? Because now we see, for example, this explosion of new SaaS applications. Everybody is using all these applications that we mentioned before. Now we see 80% of enterprises, as Gartner says, that are going to adopt a strategy to go to SASE, because it seems that it's the only way to protect an organization. And 1/3 of them are going to go with one single vendor. Why? Because if you combine all these services together and you have this unification, having one policy or the minimum number of policies, then you simplify things and you optimize things. And then you are more secure than before. Otherwise, if you have different pieces together, then again, the complexity is going to be your enemy that is going to make you more unsecure than secure. And every single customer that we have in Switzerland, in Austria, in every country, has an RFI on SASE right now. The majority of the RFIs that we're answering and RFPs is on SASE, is on these technologies. So right now, it's the way to embark on this journey, to start thinking about this journey. And how you're going to do that? You need to think about these security and networking capabilities. You need to think what would be the vendor that will give you this unification to have the best networking and the best security components, but at the same time will give you the capability to choose also components from different vendors that you can integrate and unify. And it will offer you the best performance with a cloud-native solution, with microservices, with data centers that are private-owned, that they interconnect together, but also they interconnect with all the other things on the internet, that will offer exceptional user experience that you can actually measure with observability tools every time. And of course, state-of-the-art cybersecurity with all these acronyms that we mentioned, including remote browser isolation, including CASB. And It needs to be simple, it needs to be agile, it needs to be flexible. You need to be able to scale up and scale down very fast, depending on your organization needs. And of course, it's important to reduce the total cost of ownership. And moving away from MPLS networks, from a centralized approach, to a centralized approach where you have SD-WAN, this will actually drop your communication bills and it will make it more affordable. And at the same time, simplifying all the security tools, all these different tools into one cloud-native solution, it's going to be also more, it will have more, less total cost of ownership. It will have a reduced total cost of ownership. So, in Romania, we're doing a lot of SASE and SASE workshops. You can see here the number of customers and that attending our workshops. On this link, you can find out the next ones that we're going to drive. Ovidio and Adrian and the Cisco team is here. It can give you more information about that. If you want to attend one of our workshops and do real-life scenarios, or if you want a reference case that we have in any other country, European or non-European, we are here to talk to you about. And tomorrow there is another session from Ovidio and Adrian that will go through more details on the zero trust part of what I discussed today. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here to present to you. I wish you a very nice session as the day evolves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right now, let's see what CrowdStrike can bring to the table.
Thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this event and letting us present here our solution here. My name is Martin Kanacek. I'm based in Vienna in Austria, and I'm here with my colleague Jan Schupp. Hello. And we want to start with a short video introduction, what we actually are doing. This works now. Let's see. We're missing some sound here.
I think we misjudged them.
Restart? Restart?
Ja, we should open the gate. Take a look at this! They've left us a gift! That is so nice of them. I think we misjudged them! I love horses. Here, Tux. We should open the gate. Hang on. Let's see what Charlotte thinks. Charlotte!
At CrowdStrike, we monitor trillions of cyber events to detect threats and prevent breaches before they happen, to keep your business from becoming history. We stop cyber attacks. We stop breaches. We stop a lot of bad things from happening. CrowdStrike, protection that powers you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Cool. Awesome. The thing is, what are we trying to achieve and what is actually our problem here? Jan?
Just, you need to put your microphone close to the mouth.
Oh, thank you for that.
This commercial spot was the first spot of a cybersecurity company at the Super Bowl. That was the last spot before the halftime, and our marketing colleagues are very proud of that because all you know, we are a US-based company, and that's the most famous event in the US, and everybody saw that, and also the newspapers, they are talking about the best and most funny commercials, and we hear that you laugh also, but not many of you may have seen the Super Bowl live. There's one, great. And that was just before Rihanna started to sing, and we thought today it's a good start to let you know what we are doing. And now Martin, our RSM for Romania, want to show you how important it is and what we can do to help you to be more safe, like the guys here from Trojan. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that, and I hope you can hear me now. Go Patriots. But the problem is, what do we have actually? Do we have a malware problem? Do we have an antivirus or virus problem? We heard something about identity, so is that our really problem? No, actually we have an attacker problem. So these guys are trying to break in for various reasons into our systems, steal some data, encrypt some data, do some bad things, want to damage us, want to hurt us. I don't know, so these guys are the bad guys, we have to keep them out. So if we have got one problem, we've got one purpose. We as CrowdStrike, this purpose is keeping the guys out. So we are not trying to do this with malware protection or identity protection or cloud-based protection or whatever. This is our goal. And to achieve this goal, you first need to know what the bad guys are actually doing. So we have got one answer for that. And if you want to have one answer for that, you need to know what the guys are doing. So we actually had our source is threat intelligence. This is where we came from. And want to protect against an enemy, you need to know what the enemy is doing in the first place. So, and we had some statistics. We categorized the enemies into the adversaries into three categories. The first guys are politically motivated. So these all the secret service guys and all the Russian KGB and all these kind of guys are in there. So they are nation state motivated. The second group is e-crime motivated, so they want to get on your cash, actually. Yeah. And the third guys are others, like hacktivists, for example. They want to bring down the oil refinery network because they want to make a statement for environmental reasons, for example. Yeah. And when you get attacked, you need to differentiate if this is just a script kidding, is this the Chinese Secret Service, is this some activists which want to extort you for money. So that's the question. And we try to throw all kind of things against them. So you have antivirus, you have checkmark, nothing can happen to me. You have got vulnerability management in your environment, so checkmark here. You have got patch management, yeah, checkmark here. File integrity monitoring, data loss prevention. You have a firewall, of course, a firewall and SASE stuff in your organization. Will this really solve your problem? That's the thing. It can solve your problem, but we are here. Yeah? The complexity is very high, and you need to connect the dots between the various tools. This is gonna cost you. Yeah? And time is our enemy, number one. And the adversaries know that, so if they try to confuse you with various attacks, they get you where it most vulnerable. Yeah? So, for example, during the weekend, where the SOC is not 100% staffed, or even if you have a SOC, they know that you have, because they're going to investigate before they attack you. And this is in our DNA, and we solve this problem by having a platform across all this kind of stuff. So first of all, threat intelligence is really important. That's where we started. So we know all the bad tricks of our adversaries. We know that the Russians, and I don't know if you've seen our marketing department is also great with figures. So the Russians, they are called bears, and if fancy bear is going to attack you, then guess what? They use this attack and this attack mode, and they're coming from these IP addresses. And if you monitor this worldwide, you know all this stuff. And if you know that Fancy Bear is going to attack you, you can proactively defend against that, no matter with what tool. And this needs to be together. We've got endpoint security and XDR, of course, so we know what is going on the endpoint. This is really, really important, because you cannot defend against something you cannot see. If you see weird stuff going on your endpoints, yeah, you probably should have a look at that. Same thing with cloud security. Some of your deployment guys, development guys, they spun up some cloud infrastructure. That's very easy. You just swipe your credit card and you're there. Question is this secure, and do you have it monitored closely? And that's why today we are here about identity protection, actually. So who is taking care of your identity? I mean, Stefan, if I steal your identity, who is going to stop me? I've got a valid credential, I can log in, I know what's going on because I'm a smart guy. Maybe I bought your credential on the dark web and deep web. We have talked about this already today. And I'm logging in as Stefan, and there we are. And then I have reconnaissance and sneak around, and that's why identity attacks take up to 250 days to discover. And these attacks are taken over step by step. So malware-free attacks, 71%. So if you have got a malware protection, you miss 71%. And all kinds of 80% are involved with identity stuff going on. So if I'm stealing your account, if I'm taking your account away, if I'm privileged myself as an administrator later on. So these are things I don't not even use any tools I need to ingest into your system. And as an attacker, I save myself a lot of work. I mean, you need to develop malware, you need to make it sandbox proof. This is lots of research is going on. If I steal your account, I'm in, that's it. And this is really, really taking over. If you see, since 2019, the attacks are getting even more and more, and that's why we are now at, what we have at the moment, 75% is identity-based attacks. They are malware-free. They're using the stuff you have in your own systems, and they're using your own systems against you. Great example, the Folio attack, which is using Microsoft Diagnostics tool for not the right targets. We have here, and that's why I put it on the slide, we have the 2023 Global Threat Report, where all this behavior of the bad guys is described, what they're motivated, why they're motivated, what verticals they're up to. So if we are in the banking sector and we see these guys and these guys and these guys trying to attack me, and they use this and this attack, the next question would be, am I vulnerable for these attacks? And this is the next step, what we are trying to, what we are solving actually. So we be proactive and see, okay, these guys want to attack me, I need to defend against this. And with identity, we skip all this kind of stuff. This is execution where I spread malware and somebody has deployed the malware and the malware gets caught and you have to start all over again. All this kind of stuff. It's easy for me as I'm not an attacker, but for me as an attacker, just start here. Yeah? I log in and then I'm at the lateral movement. And lateral movement is one, then it's really becoming dangerous because when I spread in the environment, in your environment, you're going to lose this war. It is going up exponentially. And when I've got one login to one of your servers, guess what? I will have another one, and another one, and another one. And it's very, very hard to contain this again. So time is against us, and that's why we need to not just to see what is going on the endpoint, but also we protect the identities against misuse. And we have here a three-step approach, actually. On the first hand, we need to see what's going on in the network, and with our unified sensor enrolled on the agents and on all the endpoints and on all the servers, we see what's going on and who is using which credential. And guess what? The same sensor is installed on your domain controllers, so we see who is authenticating against these domain controllers. And we see the configuration on the domain controllers. Who has accounts in their Active Directory, we're not quite sure if they're still used. Don't be shy, I mean everybody, yeah? Where are the configurations for service accounts? And you're not 100% sure what are they used for. So the first step is to see what might be vulnerable in my system and get rid of it. So this is also in a service from CrowdStrike, Active Directory Risk Review, that we get rid of all this kind of stuff. The second thing is then we can start to prevent something. So I didn't have any use case now why a service account should log in via remote desktop into servers. So this is very easy, we can block this. When you see it, when you know what's going on, you can block it. And on the third part, where we go into more proactive stuff, we can, if we're not sure, we can ask the user for a multi-factor authentication. But we need to be cautious about that, because multi-factor authentication can create fatigue. If you're bugged all the time with multi-factor, then you'll start pushing, this again, damn security. And in these situations, when you're not really sure what is going on, you can inject this for any Active Directory based application. So when you're logging in at 8 AM in the morning into your systems from your secured, CrowdStrike secured client, then everything is good. If you do that at 3 AM in the morning from China, maybe not so good. Yeah? But what if your administrators, for example, are doing troubleshooting at 2 AM in the morning because something went wrong? And the weirdest and the worst thing what you can do with these guys, when you're not sure, block their accounts. Because then you have false positives. And this false positive is very, very bad in troubleshooting situation. That's why we can inject multi-factor authentication on demand, either when it's abnormal or on policy. So for example, if you're logging in from your laptop with the latest patches installed, with all the tools up to date, you can log in. But if you're not up to date with your patches, we challenge you with a multi-factor authentication, just to be sure. And when we see it, we can defend against it, and then we can see, okay, we've got SMB signing disabled for these, and these applications. Who has still NTLM in the version number 1 in operation? I don't know, but there are some guys, yeah. And when you see that some servers need NTLM version 1 as authentication method, you can restrict access to NTLM version 1 to exactly these kind of connections. So if an attacker comes in and wants to exploit that, he cannot exploit it everywhere. And when he wants to exploit it at 3 AM in the morning, guess what? We can stop him. We can also inject multi-factor authentication for service accounts, which is quite cool. So automated tools, you get a challenge, a notification, hey, this tool wants to do, I don't know, Salesforce backup or whatever. Okay, may do it. Otherwise, when your service account gets hijacked, tool knows what the bad guys are doing with that. And from our POVs, what we do EMEA-wide, I've got some results for you. So this is numbers from thousands of customers and millions of accounts. We see that nearly a quarter have inactive accounts still in their Active Directory. So guess what? This quarter of accounts, do they get the password update? Not so much. So when I'm back in my attacker role again, I would go for these accounts. And these accounts, they are sometimes sold in the darknet, but which we can also monitor. Because when the bad guys are talking about your company in the darknet, probably not so good. Then what we see also compromised and non-compromised accounts, or passwords, let's put it that way. So we see if any password is on a potentially directory list. So if an attacker wants to do a directory-based attack, we can prevent that by keeping the passwords out of this directory. And also very interesting is stealthy accounts. So these are not administrator accounts per se, so per definition, but they have some privileges which might be misused by the attackers. Another one with high risks. Okay, we categorize these users in high risk scores. We can also protect executives, for example, because a CFO is per se not an administrative privileged account, but if you capture this guy's account, you can do lots of damage. Yeah, and we have also organizations, they're close to 3% that have privileged accounts with compromised passwords. So for example, from your administrators or service accounts with compromised passwords. a service account with a static password configured in a backup script, these passwords never change. And with this, you can uncover this and fix it before it gets actually exploited. And we are right on time. Want to get back to our original statement. We stop breaches, and we are not actually an antivirus company or an Intel company or an identity-based company. We use this for stop the breach. Questions? I will be here tomorrow as well. Thank you.